some problems with the fence. This is a fence post here. The wood pickets are supposed to be flush here on every post. As you can see, there's a gap here, and it's flush here. Here they left this open. There should be a board here. Right here they put two pieces of wood together. That shouldn't be. It's one piece, it's two pieces. The blue pieces of tape are where they miss nails. So I'm going to work my way around the yard. You can see they're off here. This is another fence post. This is closer, but that's supposed to be flush up against the post. The other side, there's a big gap. Here's another post. They're off. Not only are they off, they're not supposed to use a little piece. This isn't even a full picket, so this doesn't belong here. The two behind there, you could see they put a piece here, a piece here. That isn't supposed to be like that. There's another fence post which is off. Fence post, picket. This one looks pretty good. It's flush, but then here's the big gap. It's not supposed to be like that. If you notice on the opposite side, picket, 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 picket. And this one they got run. Picket and picket next to each other. It doesn't follow this pattern. Inside, outside, inside, outside, inside. These general gaps here look pretty good. They're even. Here they messed up again, and they used a dark black almost post, which shouldn't have been used. It's an eyesore, it stands out. Once again, here's another short piece they put in, which they weren't supposed to do. And now here's a big gap here. More blue tape. Once again, the blue tape I put on is where they miss nails in the approximate spot. There's supposed to be 2 nails top, 2 nails middle, 2 nails on the bottom on each one. Another post, which they're off again. Post picket. This one they got pretty good on the left side, but you can see the right side they're off. They got the gap. Another fence post, and they're off on this one too. Got the gap going here. It's not flush against the post, but on the other side looks pretty good. They got that right. You can see. Another post. Now they're way off on this one. There's a big wide gap where the picket should be flush. On this side there's a smaller gap, but it's not flush. Here's the corner post. That looks pretty good. They're flush and flush against the post like it should be. Another post here. They're off on here, but they're pretty close. But they're off on this side. You can see the gap here. That's supposed to be flush. They're off on this one. And they didn't cut the angle. This one's correct, but it's not rounded. Doesn't have the angle. It should be like this one, angled down, angled. This one, another fence post. Gap not touching. This one is pretty close, but it's still not touching. Another fence post. Now they're way off on this one. There's a big gap. And a big gap on this side too. Right here I could put my whole hand in. Another fence post. This one looks pretty good. They're flush. On here and flush on this side. Another fence post. They're way off. Big gap here, but that gap's bigger, that gap's bigger. That picket should be flush, and that should be flush. And neither one is. Spacing gaps here look pretty good. At least to me, they look even. Another post, it's way off. The picket isn't flush against the post. And it's not, the picket's not up against the post either on its side. Another post, it's way off here. Got the gap. The picket's not flush. On here it's closer, but they cut a picket down to size, and that shouldn't be, and also that's angled, but they missed it on here. So this isn't a full-size board like this is. That shouldn't have been done. You can see the gaps are off. That gap's way wider. That gap's way smaller. There's the corner. Corner looks pretty good. Picket's up flush against the post. There's another post. The picket's up against the post like it should be. On one side, but then there's a gap on this side. Another post. You can see they're way off. The picket isn't flush with the post here. Not only that, there's a smaller gap here and a big gap here. And the other side of the fence, I got picket against picket. That isn't supposed to be like that. It's not staggered like this one. Inside, outside, inside, outside, inside, outside. Put the two together, it shouldn't be like that. Another fence post. This one's pretty close. Picket's up flush against the post on one side, but it's off on the other, only a little bit. Pretty close though. Another picket here. This looks pretty close. It's flush up here. Only a little gap towards the bottom, but that's close. This side's closer, it's pretty much touching. There's another post, you can see it's way off. There's the big gap there, That picket ain't touching and that picket ain't touching. You can see the big gap here. Big gap here. Another post. This is pretty close. Picket's touching the post. And pretty much touching the post here. It's only off a little. These gaps look good. They look evenly spaced. Another post which is way off. The picket ain't touching and the picket isn't touching. Another big gap here. Big gap. Big gap. These gaps look pretty good. They're spaced about right. Corner looks pretty good. Picket against the post, picket against the post. This post is off here. Picket is flush against the post. That looks pretty good. But they're off on this side. You can see the big gap here. The picket isn't touching. So you have a gap going. And that's it.